News. Welcome to the Friday 15, where every Friday, 12 p.m. Central Time, we answer the industry questions that you have submitted. How do you submit those? You do that by going to hostagencyreviews.com/Friday15, or you can follow the link in the description. Today we have on a co-host, may recognize her voice or her face. Hey, Lindsay from Travel Leaders 365.
Hey, Steph, how are you?
Good. Um, so for those that don't know Travel Leaders 365, we're gonna pop a link to their profile in the comments for you to check out their host agency if you're interested. Before we get into our questions for today, just a few reminders. One, we have a bunch of webinars coming up. So if you haven't already signed up for webinar reminders with HAR, I just popped in the QR code for those of you on YouTube where you can scan it and sign up for email reminders of the webinars. And coming up next week, we have one with G Adventures about debunking G's biggest myth. It is March 12th at 11 Central Time. We'll pop that link in the description as well for everybody. So let's get into our questions for today. So, our first one is anonymous, and they say, would the accelerator course, and this is HAR's accelerator course, just to clarify, would the accelerator course be helpful if I've been an employee? I'm thinking of going on my own. I do a volume of around 1 million and have 2.5 years of experience with over 1,000 cruise bookings. So, um, Lindsay, I know you don't probably know about our accelerator course, but let's start with you and just kind of talk about the switch mindset and otherwise that comes with becoming going from an employee to self-employed.
There's a lot of mindset change that needs to happen. And the first thing I think that most advisors find when they move from employee to independent, the financial ramifications and the tax reporting ramifications. All of a sudden, you go from having all of that done for you. I don't know about y'all, but I have an amazing accounting department that handles all of my wacky stuff. Now, all of a sudden, it is on you. Also to self fund. So I think the finance side of it is kind of the biggest switch that advisors find and how to manage that flow.
hmm I'm going to put a link into our estimated tax articles because I
Mm.
think one of the big things is so for those that don't know, if you are self-employed, when you're an employee, your company that's employing you, your employer, some people might call it, your employer takes out a certain like 7.5% of your paycheck goes to pay Social Security and Medicare, and then they pay for you that other 7.5%. Now, when you end up going on your own, you end up having to pay all of that. So not just that 7.5, but you have like the 15% total that you don't normally have to pay. And when your employer does your payroll, they send in every payroll or quarterly, they'll send in all the money that they've taken out of your check and withheld from it and send it into the government because they want your money now, not a year later. So when you become the employer or have your own company, you're expected to send these in quarterly. So estimated taxes are a big thing, or quarterly taxes is another way. That was a lot of information. So that article is going to be really helpful for all of you. And we actually even have reminders you can sign up for in there, email reminders for the quarterly taxes so you don't forget to pay them. So that's helpful. Now, to address specifically the accelerator course. So for those that don't know what the accelerator course is, that is a course that hosts agency reviews. If you've heard of our 7-day setup program, this is the accelerator course, which means it comes with, I think it's like 80 different videos and like 50 different resources. It comes with a course community where you can communicate with the HAR staff. It also comes with twice a month weekly or twice a month small group meetings where you get to either talk with the HAR staff or we bring in a expert within the travel industry. So it kind of gives you the support you need to get started sooner and walk you through things and also have the support you need instead of doing it on your own. But I would say if you're an employee, it would be really helpful, even if you have years of experience under your belt, because What the 7-day setup course specifically does is it helps people start their agency, and employees have no experience in that. And so it is 100%, even if you have a number of sales underneath your belt and you know the industry front and back, there's a lot of things on the employer side that an agency owner deals with that you as the employee have probably never touched. And so getting a bigger picture of the industry is another reason that it would be helpful to for you. So I'm gonna put a couple resources in. One is the link to the Accelerator course. One is our link to our hosted advisor report. And that's going to be helpful for you because as an employee, you're used to a certain amount of income, however, you're compensated. This employee or the hosted advisor report will give you kind of an idea of the income levels and how long it's going to take. Like Lindsay said, financials are a big thing because it takes a lot longer to earn and get your money when you're starting your own business. So we'll link to that. And then I'm also going to link to the employee report just so if you wanted to stay on as an employee, you could get some information as employees. So, next question. Can I require my agency's independent contractors, my ICs, to work exclusively with my agency? A few prospective ICs have told me that exclusivity is not allowed by law. Is that correct?
I love this
Lindsay.
question so
I
much. So
Yes.
my first thing is, sounds like you need to talk to your attorney because it is actually dependent upon the state that your IC is in. So I know the state of California. So years, I'm going to blunder this, which is why you need an attorney. Years ago, when the whole Uber thing with the whole IC, whatever, California
Mm,
has been the most vicious on this. So California definitely has the most stringent IC laws. Federally, though, technically, by the letter of the federal law, you can require exclusivity in your IC contracts. I don't, even though I can, right? We're based in Illinois. I can do that if I want to. I don't do that because I want my advisors to be able to do whatever they want to do. I don't have a need for that. So I'd be careful making any kind of like absolute statement that you can or you can't. And again,
mhm,
depending on where the IC is located, the reasons that some host agencies would want to do that, and this is more back in the olden days. This isn't so much now, but it's to detect fraud. The reason that a host agency would want their IC to only run things under them is to be able to better detect fraud. But anymore in this current travel landscape, it's actually really difficult to do that anyway, even if you're exclusive, because as an IC, you can technically do business with whomever you want to do business, even outside of a hosted relationship. So that's kind of less of an important thing. But so the answer is you can require it in your contract because you're contracting with these people, so you can choose who you work with or not. But depending on the state that the IC is from, you may or may not be able to actually enforce that.
mhm. So, that is a great question, and I'm gonna link to an article. Mark Pastronk actually just wrote one for his Travel Weekly legal brief column, and we'll link to that, and essentially what Mark says is that well, he says they can put the exclusivity clauses in there. I will say not a lot of host agencies do that. Just and here's the reason behind it and something that people should be aware of. So one is when a host agency hires on or brings on an independent contractor, we talked about all these taxes that you pay as your self-employed person. If you're with a host agency and that host agency suddenly they get audited by the IRS or the Department of Labor, there's two separate places they can be audited. If they get audited and then they say, "Oh, it looks actually like these actually weren't independent contractors, these were employees." That's a big problem because then you have to pay all these back taxes as a host agency as well as publicly penalties. Um, and that can cause cash flow problems, which could result in something not so great. And so, as an independent contractor, what you want to be looking for, this exclusivity is not going to be a make or break, but it is something that's going to be I wouldn't say a red flag, but a red flag for you to be aware of that chalks you more in the employee column instead of the independent contractor column. If they're also doing things like making sure that you attend meetings and saying you have to take these trainings, putting a lot of restrictions on you, there's a lot more marks, red marks in the employee column. you want to be careful because on the off chance they get audited, that's something that could come back to bite everybody, the host agency, and then all of their ICs as well. So I'm going to do a couple resources as usual. So we'll link to Mark's article. We are going to link to an article we have on employee misclassification or IC misclassification. We'll link to our attorney list for travel attorneys if you have questions on that. And then let's jump into our last question, Lindsay. Okay, this is from Donna A, and Donna is wondering if I start with a host agency. Oh, wait, let me start from the beginning. I'm wondering if I can start with a host agency right away or if I need to complete any training first. Does it vary by host agency? So, Lindsay, what about TL365? What do you do?
I'm so sorry. My dog is barking right now. I
I can't
apologize
even
for
hear it.
that so much. It does depend on the host agency and what they are willing to offer you, what they have, in store. If they require you to be an experienced advisor, I know some host agencies that require their ICs to have X amount of years of experience or have X amount in their client base. So they can kind of require anything. There are some host agencies that specialize in advisors new to the industry, and so for those ones, I would definitely encourage, if you're new to the industry, you want to jump in there, identify those who are going to support you. As we were talking about earlier with the different, ways to start your business in the travel industry, it can be difficult to navigate. And so if you've got a host agency that specializes in supporting those advisors who are brand new to the industry, it can make it easier for you as you're beginning your business, to have that kind of very specific intentional support versus, trying to kind of throw it to. Now that said, the agencies that have requirements, they can still support you. They've been doing this for a very long time. So I think it depends on the agency. It depends on the needs of the advisor ultimately.
Yes, I'm 100% on board with that answer. Donna, it's really something that you want to talk to the host agency about because some of them may require even certain things like they may say you can take the Travel Institute's courses, or you can take our course, or you can take our 7-day setup course, or you can take Asta's course, and that will count. So if they have some kind of a requirement, you could also ask. I know there are some host agencies, like let's say they require you take their course. You can say, hey, I actually took HAR's Accelerator course. Would that be a substitute I could do instead of your training? And they will say yes. And then I want to share because Lindsay was talking about on the about like education opportunities. So if you type in training up in our search bar at the top, that'll pull up our training and education article. And this has tons of information on training and education opportunities for travel advisors out there, whether it be through travel advisor schools or host agency consortia, or if you need business and sales coaching. So lots and lots of information in this article that we'll link to. And then the other thing I wanted to show you is because we're talking about people that take newer experienced advisors, just to show where you can find that. So on a profile on the site, if you go into this metadata information, if you look under currently accepting, it will tell you if they take beginner advisors or experienced advisors. And then in the search field, um, up here, you can also filter by that and say that you want to only have that they accept beginner agents, and that will pull up all of the host agencies that accept beginner agents. But it really is going to vary by host agency. And the other thing I would say is if you do have specific questions on the Q&A tab on host agency's profile, which if you're watching on YouTube, if you go to the profile, click on the Q&A tab, you can ask the question to your host agency or host agencies about their education requirements. And the nice thing about this is that way all of the advisors that are visiting at the profile later will be able to benefit from this information that you have asked. Or you can send a message privately as well. But again, the advantage of doing it in the Q&A is other people are able to find that information. Oh, why is it giving me the full screen and not you?
It's better that way.
That was awkward. Well, let's see. So, Lindsay, thank you so much for all your great content today. So I'm going to again put a link to Travel Leaders 365's profile. Is there any other place or people should, if they have questions or want to reach out to you, hang out, talk
All that
dogs,
fun
that sort of
stuff.
thing?
We make it super easy. So my email is ltaylor@tl365.com. So please feel free, reach out. I love talking industry stuff. So let's chat.
She also likes talking dogs too, so you
I
can do
do
that as
talk
well.
dogs an awful lot. Yes.
So let's see, upcoming for our next Friday 15th, for those of you wanting to know, March 15th, we have Lori Spears with Levarte Travel. That will be on. It's another host agency. March 22nd, we have Turn, which is a technology platform that does CRM, itinerary planning, lots of things they're rolling out there. We will have Katie Williams on for that if you have questions about Turn. And then we on March 29th, we have April Swales with Uniglobe Travel Center coming on as a co-host. So any specific questions for, I already forgot who was coming on, Levarte, Turn, and Uniglobe Travel Center. You can go ahead and submit those by going to hostagencyreviews.com/Friday15, and we will make sure to get those out to the co-hosts. And a final reminder, if you want to get the webinar reminders from Host Agency Reviews, check out the description link, or you can scan the QR code if you're on YouTube. So thank you so much again for coming on, Lindsay.
Thank you, Steph. Love chatting with you.
Always have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and we will see you next Friday, 12 p.m. Central Time.